So we're going to talk about how to remove her power over you. There's the girl, and you know the one I'm talking about, the one who texts back and your whole day immediately changes, or she goes cold and suddenly you can't think straight, you can't focus at work, you're checking your phone every 4 minutes like you're waiting on lab results. And when you're actually around her in person, it's like someone replaced you with a worse, less attractive version of yourself. You talk too much or you go completely quiet. The jokes that come natural with everyone else, they don't come at all with her. You laugh a half a second too late. You say something normal and then you immediately wonder why you said it that way. You're so deep in your head that you might as well not even be in the room with her. And the most frustrating part, you can see it happening. You're watching yourself be awkward in real time and you can't stop it. It's not a confidence problem. It's not a social skills problem. It's something else entirely. And in this video, I'm going to break down exactly what that something else is, why it happens to smart, capable guys who are perfectly normal around everyone else, and the specific shift that removes a woman's power over you for good. Hi, I'm Bobby Rio, and I've been studying this stuff for over 16 years, and I've seen this happen with every type of guy that you can possibly imagine. There was Paul Michael, successful New York City DJ, probably had his choice of most of the women at the club, yet he's calling Rob Judge and myself twice a night for coaching, completely falling apart over this girl Mercedes. Her not liking one of his Instagram posts would turn into a 2-hour coaching call over what it meant. Or my friend Jake, like legitimately one of the better guys I knew with women, yet he got so wrapped up with this one girl that he barely knew, maybe 3 dates with her, that when she didn't answer her phone one night, he drives to her house and gets caught by her neighbor peeking in her windows, snooping around her house like a stalker. And then there's Tim, a client of mine, mid-50s, just gets out of a divorce. He goes on a few dates with this woman in her 20s, and next thing I know, he's calling me in a full spiral. Missed work, stopped exercising, almost blew up a business deal he'd spent 20 years building over a woman he'd been on 4 dates with. Every single one of them, when I asked what was going on, said some version of, I can't explain it, it's just something about her. That phrase, I can't explain it, is exactly what this video is about, because I can't explain it. And once you see what's actually happening, her power over you begins to melt away. So here's the insight that'll change how you see this. The reason she has power over you has nothing to do with her. Now I know that sounds impossible, but stay with me. Your mind has done something to her. It's taken an attractive woman and it's turned her into a symbol, right? So she is no longer a woman. She is your symbol. Okay? You've done this, not her. You've taken this woman and you've turned her into a symbol. She's not just a fun, attractive woman anymore. She's become the answer to a question that you've been carrying around with yourself for years. The question sounds different for every guy, but it's really the same question. Am I enough? So for some guys, it's, can I get the women that other men want? For some guys, it's, am I still desirable at my age? For other guys, it's, do I have the kind of value that a high quality woman would choose? When a woman was attracted and then she loses interest, the question might be, was I really good enough to get her, or was it a fluke? Right? I've seen that go through a lot of guys' minds without them realizing it. The specific flavor always changes, but the core question is always the same. And once your mind assigns her that role, once she becomes the answer, her behavior stops being just behaviors. Her delayed text becomes a verdict. Her coldness feels like a rejection of your identity. Her approval feels like proof that you're the man, that you're not scared of losing her. You're scared of what losing her says about you. And I want to say this clearly, because a lot of guys think that this is a them problem, a confidence problem, I just need more experience problem, or I've never been good with girls problem. It's not. I've worked with like high-powered CEOs, guys in Hollywood, professional athletes, guys who have no shortage of options, no shortage of success, no shortage of evidence that they're valuable. And at some point, every single one of them has done this with a woman. They've turned her into a symbol. They usually don't even see it happening. They just say, I can't explain it, it's just something about her. But from the outside, I can see exactly what's going on. The specifics, like I said, are different. The mechanism is identical. That's the trap. The real power she has over you isn't about her at all. It's about the question you've been asking and the fact that you've decided she she's the one who gets to answer that question. So I have self-awareness now. I didn't have it back then, but years ago, after I finally hooked up with my female friend Robin, when she pulled away at the time, I convinced myself that she was special and that we had this amazing connection and we were soulmates and all the things you tell yourself. And I truly believed that the reason I was so emotionally invested in her, the reason I was chasing her so hard and spiraling so bad over her was because I'd never find anyone else like her. But if I'm honest about it, right, looking back, it wasn't that at all. Sure, she was cool. We did have a really strong connection. She was attractive. But what she really was a symbol. She was the trophy that I could wave in my friend's face. She was a symbol of triumph over my friends. This was a girl who I was friends with. And for years, they were making fun of me for being stuck in the friend zone with her. And why don't you make your move already? And why you like her? And so when I finally kissed her, right, when we finally hooked up, it was proof to them that I just wasn't some clueless friend zone chump. And losing that symbol of triumph was like losing a part of my new identity that I wanted to hold on to. So here's the thing. Once she becomes the symbol, she now is no longer a woman. She's a prize, a trophy, and you stop being a person in an interaction, and now you become a contestant in audition. And the moment you become the contestant, your nervous system shifts. You start monitoring yourself in real time, right? Did that land? Am I saying too much? Should I have waited longer to reply to her text? And here's the cruel irony. The self-monitoring is exactly what makes you less attractive, because confidence requires presence. You can't be fully present while simultaneously watching yourself perform for somebody. This is why guys who are naturally funny or sharp or easy to be around suddenly become wooden and weird around the woman they really want. Their personality didn't disappear. Their nervous system decided that the stakes were too high. Now, a lot of this is old-fashioned conditioning that gets reactivated, right? Maybe you grew up feeling overlooked. Maybe you had an early rejection that landed wrong. Maybe you spent years as the nice guy or the backup guy, the one women liked as a friend but never quite chose. Or maybe you didn't get girls in high school. I know I didn't, and that I carried that to when I was with a girl, and this is something that took me a lot of self-awareness, is that even after I got better with women in general, there was still a certain type of woman that I would get hung up on. It was the woman who I can sense was very popular, the woman who had a lot of friends, the woman who had a big social circle, because that wasn't me growing up. And when I would get around one of these women, again, she would turn into a symbol. Symbol would be, I fit in with that crowd, right? I am popular. I am good enough to get one of these girls. And once that came into my mind, once that became sort of her power, I became a totally worse version of myself, and I would lose the girl over and over until I finally figured this stuff out. So when a woman comes along who feels exciting, who feels hard to get or socially valuable, she doesn't just activate attraction. Again, she activates the wound. Now, you're not just trying to connect with her, you're trying to repair something old through her approval. Again, I mentioned me, right? I was trying to repair my feeling of being in high school and not getting that cool hot girl that all the guys wanted, I was just invisible to her. So when I got better and I was out, these kind of girls would still throw me off my game because that wound would now be me trying to repair that. Again, she was a symbol. And once she becomes a symbol, she has total power over you. And it's dangerous because no woman can safely hold that much psychological weight. And even if she wanted to give you what you're looking for, she can't, because what you're looking for isn't something another person can give you. The validation you're chasing from her, it won't fill the things you think it'll fill. I've worked with thousands of guys over the past 18 years. I've seen lots of guys get the girl that they are obsessed over, and within 2 weeks, they're looking for the next thing that's gonna finally make them feel like enough. The hole doesn't close from the outside. So here's another layer that makes this worse, and that is scarcity. If you believe women like her are rare, if she feels like a once-in-a-lifetime situation, then every interaction carries impossible pressure. Scarcity creates pressure, pressure creates fear, fear creates performance, and performance destroys the exact thing that makes you attractive. This is why abundance isn't just about numbers. It's not about having 12 women in your phone. Real abundance is a belief, an unwavering belief. It sounds like this: even if it doesn't work out, my life, my value, my future are still fully intact. Without that belief, one woman becomes too important. And when one woman becomes too important, she becomes too powerful. You've handed her the controls without realizing it, and she can feel it because of your behavior. Your behavior gives it away in 100 small ways, and she does not want that type of power over you, right? It's unattractive. It's too much responsibility. It's too much pressure for her. Again, abundance isn't about having like millions of options. It's the deep belief that your worth isn't riding on this one outcome. Now, here's where most guys get abundance wrong. They think it's a mindset you're just supposed to have. Like one day you wake up and you decide, okay, I have abundance now, and suddenly like a slow reply doesn't bother you anymore. It doesn't work that way. Abundance isn't something that you think your way into. It's something you build your way into. So picture a glass of water. Drop one drop of food coloring into it, and the whole glass changes colors. That one drop is everything. Now picture a swimming pool. Drop that same exact drop into the pool and nothing happens, right? The pool doesn't even notice. Same drop, completely different result. The only thing that changed is the size of what it landed in. So her behavior, the cold text, the night she seems distant, the slow reply, that's the drop. And your life is the water. If your life right now is basically work, sleep, and her, that drop colors everything very quickly and with very little of the actual drop. One short text and your whole evening is ruined. One good text and you're floating in the clouds. But if you've got a full life, if you've got things that you're building, people you're showing up for, places that you're trying to go, that same drop just doesn't have the room to spread. You know, I think back to my painting years. And I was running the house painting business with my brother, and on the side I was grinding, building this magazine, this web dating advice magazine called TSB. And during that same stretch, I was dating a handful of different girls. And here's what I noticed. Even though I didn't have the words for it back then, I noticed something very, very unique. On the days that I put in real work on my magazine, which is what I was passionate about, and I was making progress and I learned something new and I felt like I was building something, a girl not texting back barely registered. I notice it and I go right back to what I was doing. But on the days that were, just painting houses and coming home and sitting on the couch and staring at my phone, that's when one slow reply would wreck my whole night. I'd lie there running through every possible reason that she hadn't texted back yet. Same woman, probably the same level of interest from her either way. The only thing that changed was how much room I left in my life for her to fill. This is why go build a life isn't some throwaway line or mantra. It's not about distraction. It's not about pretending you don't care. It's that the more your life actually is built, the more you've got going on that matters to you, the smaller any one woman's behavior becomes in proportion to everything else. Now, it's not just women, right? This is obviously, we're talking about removing her power over you. But it's the same thing with anything, right? It's the same thing with a friend's power over you, a client's power over you, your parents' power over you. The more things, the more full your life is, the less any one person is gonna have power over you. When this happens, she doesn't lose value, she just stops being the whole glass. The size of your life determines the size of her power. Build the life and you shrink the power without ever having to try to care less. So there's one more layer deeper that I need to talk about because most guys don't even see it happening. You don't just see who she is, so you start projecting, right? You build a whole movie in your head, what it would feel like if she chose you. The validation, the status, the story of I got her, maybe the relationship, maybe just the conquest, or like me and Robin, like I told you, the story of getting to rub it in my friend's face that I got her after I had told, they had told me I was wasting my time with her. But here's the thing, you don't actually know her yet, okay? This is really critical. You know her beauty, you know the feeling that she creates in you, you know the fantasy that your mind has built around her. Now, some of you watching this do know her. Maybe you've been dating her, maybe you've been seeing her for months and you know her flaws a little bit. You've seen her at her worst and you still can't shake the hold she has on you. Here's why. For you, it's not about the fantasy of getting her. It's about the identity you've built around having her. There's a quiet story running underneath everything. I'm the kind of man who's with a woman like this. And the moment she pulls away or things get shaky, what's threatened isn't the relationship. It's not even missing her, it's that story. Because if she slips away, the part of your identity that said, I can get and keep a woman like that, goes away with her. It's why breakups with certain women wreck guys in ways that have nothing to do with how compatible they actually are with her. Trust me, I've worked with guys who on paper, this woman is a train wreck for them, but for whatever reason, they projected something onto her that they're now mourning that, right? They're not mourning the person, they're mourning that projection. They're mourning the version of themselves that she made them feel like. Now, to be clear, this isn't necessarily about her being the most attractive woman that you got. Maybe she was the first woman who made you feel like a man. Maybe she made you feel successful. Maybe she made you feel creative. One of the reasons in the Scrambler, we teach the golden mirror, where you compliment, you make a woman feel like the ideal version of herself. Well, here's the thing. Some people do this to us naturally. Some women use the golden mirror on us and we don't realize it. We think we love her, but really what's happening is we feel like the ideal version of ourselves when we're around her. And her not wanting to be with us means that vision of ourself wasn't actually true, right? She gave you an identity for yourself and you don't want to lose that identity. Whether you know her, you don't know her, the mechanism is the same. You're not afraid of losing her. You're afraid of what losing her means about you. That fantasy, that identity story can actually become more powerful than reality, which is why the emotional reaction when she pulls back feels so disproportionate. So I want to give you an exercise that cuts through this fast. Get a piece of paper and I want you to put 3 columns, okay? Column 1 is what you actually know about her, right? Facts about her. Just write facts. And you're only gonna write the facts you actually know about her, right? She's attractive, she's funny, we had some good conversations, maybe she's a good kisser. That's usually about where the list ends for most people. Column 2 is what I'm projecting onto her. Your projections, okay? She's different, she'd make my life exciting, getting her would prove something. She's the kind of woman I never get, she'd prove I've changed. Column 3 is what I don't know. This is like the most important column, right? It's what I still need to find out, right? Is she emotionally stable? Does she respect other people's time? Is she warm? Does she bring peace or does she bring drama? Does she actually like me back? Do we have a sexual chemistry together? When you do this honestly, something begins to shift. You move from I hope she chooses me to I don't actually know yet if she qualifies. Not in an arrogant way, in a grounded way, in a realistic way. I mean, one of the reasons when we talk about abundance and having options is so important is because you begin to realize that you don't actually know them until you've lived with them, but very often until you've been in a serious relationship with them. Because the first few months of getting to know somebody, they are totally putting on their I'm the perfect person mask. That mask begins to slip off at around the 6-month mark. And that's when you get to see their true personality, their true character, their true neediness, their true motivation, like everything, right? How good of a person they are, how much integrity they have. Attraction makes guys overestimate her value and underestimate the importance of being a fit with her. Her beauty tells you that she's attractive. It doesn't tell you that she belongs in your life or the chemistry is gonna go beyond looks and surface level conversation. All right, I wanna give you another sort of insight exercise and another way of looking at this. And it's something that may change every text exchange between you and a woman starting today. You and her are not in the same movie. I want you to just kind of think about this and use this as a mental model. You and her aren't in the same movie. In your head, this is a movie about whether she likes you. Her texts are scenes. Her tone is a plot twist. Her silence is a cliffhanger. You've got a whole production running. Meanwhile, she's the star of her own movie. And in her movie, you're a side character, maybe a love interest, maybe just a guy from a couple dates, but you are not the main plot line of her day. So let me make this concrete. She sends you a text. It takes her maybe 4 seconds to type into her phone. She hits send and her brain's already moved on to the show that she's watching, the call with her sister, the work email she forgot to send. You read that text in 4 seconds too. And then you spend the next 45 minutes on it, replaying the wording, comparing it to her last 10 texts, wondering if the lowercase k means something, drafting 3 replies, deleting 2 of them. 4 seconds of her life, 45 minutes of your life. That's not because she's careless, and it doesn't mean she doesn't like you, right? Or it doesn't mean you're too sensitive. It doesn't mean any of that. It's because you're running 2 completely different economies. In her economy, this is one of a dozen small, low-stakes things happening in her day. In your economy, it's the headline. And here's the part that stings a little. She can feel that imbalance. Not consciously, but she can feel that you've assigned this way more weight than she has. And that gap, more than anything she said or didn't say, is what makes you feel too much or needy or pressure. So next time you catch yourself spiraling on a text, ask one question. How much time did she actually spend on this? Not to feel bad, but to recalibrate. Because the second you stop multiplying her 4 seconds by 20, you stop handing her a starring role in a movie that she didn't even know she was in. You're not losing power because of what she does. You're losing it by turning her 4-second text into 45 minutes. So here's the thing all of this comes down to. When you give her power over you, you've outsourced your self-worth to her response. When she's warm, you feel powerful. When she's cold, you feel small. When she laughs, you feel chosen. When she pulls back, you feel exposed. That's not attraction, that's emotional dependence dressed up as attraction. And the fix isn't that you have to, immediately stop caring or become stoic about her. Although in some cases, it is time to cut your loss and move on. Sometimes you need to hear that. Sometimes you know it, but you're chasing a loss the same way a gambler knows he should walk away from the craps table, but he can't help himself. A lot of times that's what's going on, right? You're chasing a loss. But the real fix is to stop making her the mirror you use to find out who you are. She can be beautiful without being above you. She can be attractive without being rare. She can be desirable without being the judge of your worth. She can reject you without meaning you're less of a man. She can like you without it meaning you're finally complete, that you're finally the high school quarterback who got, the cheerleader. The moment you need her response to tell you that you're valuable, your frame is already in her hands. This is the shift. You stop making her a symbol. You start seeing her as a person you're getting to know, whose value to your life is still an open question. Now, knowing all this conceptually is one thing, but what about when you're actually in it? When you feel the wall go up in real time, when you notice yourself going stiff, trying to say the right thing, laughing a half bit too late. Your nervous system's decided the stakes are too high, and you can't think your way out of that. You need a plan you built before the emotional moment arrives. So here's 2 things that actually work. One is the if-then plan. So you can do this on a Word document, a Google sheet, a piece of paper if you prefer, but really what you're doing is if-then. So let me explain what I mean by this. So this is something that I have every client do. You decide in advance how you're gonna respond before she triggers you. So you write these down, actually write them. If I notice myself trying to impress her, then I'll slow down and ask myself, do I even like her energy right now? If I feel the urge to overtalk or explain or talk too much, then I'll ask one question and let there be silence. If I feel a spike of wanting her approval, then I'll remind myself she hasn't qualified yet. I'm still deciding. If I start putting her on a pedestal, then I'll name 3 things I still need to find out about her. If I feel afraid to disagree with her or to not, be honest about my opinions, then I'll calmly state my real opinion. So again, I just gave you a few examples, but you want to take time because we all have the different areas that we get this wrong. And you want to, do this in advance. The reason it works is simple. Don't wait until you're in emotional quicksand to decide how you're going to behave. By the time the feeling hits you, it's too late to think clearly. You make the decisions now when you're calm, and then you execute later when things start feeling real. That's how standards become automatic. That's how the grounded version of you shows up instead of, the survival version of yourself. The feeling doesn't get a vote. Decide in advance who shows up, not in the moment when she's standing in front of you. You're gonna mess it up if you wait till then. Next is the third person coach. This is one for when you're already in the spiral, already in your head, already replaying the conversation or obsessing over what she meant by that text. Stop trying to solve it from the inside, step outside of it. Instead of thinking, what should I do? Ask. If I were coaching a guy I respected who was in this exact situation, what would I tell him? Write it out if you need to. Write it out in a third person. Like, I would tell this guy that he's gotta calm the fuck down. I gotta tell this guy that he's making a fool out of it. Like, I would tell this guy, you don't even know this girl, right? But write it down in the third person. Not, I really like her and I'm scared of losing her, but Mike is very attracted to this woman. Because of that, he's starting to act like her approval determines his value. And then you ask, what is Mike making this mean? What is the cleaner interpretation of this? What would a grounded guy do here? What should he stop doing immediately? That distance is everything, right? You can't lead yourself while you're fused in the panic. You have to step outside the story before you can see it clearly. And then coach the man in the story. Now, sometimes you need an actual coach, right? Sometimes you need a guy on the outside who's been in the situation and he can coach you out of it. But try this, right? You can't read the label from inside the bottle. Step outside the story, then coach the man in the story. So let me tie this together because I want it to be simple enough to use. She has power over you because your mind turned her into proof of your value. Once her approval becomes evidence that you're enough, her disapproval feels like evidence that you're not. The work is separating the woman from the symbol, from the meaning, not by caring less, but by being genuinely curious about her as a person while keeping your own sense of value, of self-esteem intact. What does this mean? It means stop outsourcing your self-worth to her reaction. Understand that scarcity is a story your mind tells itself. It's not a fact. She's not the only woman in the world that you're gonna get along with, trust me. Use the pedestal breaker to dissolve the fantasy and get back to reality in the moment. Use the if-then plan to plan ahead. Step outside the panic and use the third-person coach technique. And remember, you're not just trying to get her approval, you're deciding if she fits into the life you're building. So the second you genuinely believe that, the game changes because now you're not a contestant, you're a man who's checking to see if she qualifies, and that energy, she feels it. Now look, everything I walked you through, that's the foundation. But removing her power over you isn't a one-time realization, it's a different operating system. One that most guys never get taught because nobody ever sits them down and shows them the actual rules of this game. Well, that's exactly why I wrote the Invisible Game book. It's everything I've learned coaching guys through this exact thing, broken down into real mechanics of frame, of attraction and power that most men never see because nobody ever points it out to them. Inside, I get into things like how frame actually works and why most guys are operating from a borrowed one without even realizing it. The tests that women run on you without meaning to and why passing them has nothing to do with what you say. How to build real abundance, not the fake I've got options bravado, but the kind that actually changes how she feels around you. And the exact shift that moves you from chasing her approval to becoming the guy she's trying to keep. If you've ever sat there decoding a text for 45 minutes, if you've ever felt like one woman had more control over your mood than you did, if you've ever said, I can't explain it, it's just something about her. This book was written for that guy because that guy was me at one point. There's a link in the description. You can go to invisiblegamebook.com. It's on Amazon. Grab your copy. And if this video gave you even one, oh, that's been what's happening to me, do me a favor, hit the like button, drop a comment telling me which part hit, and subscribe so you don't miss the next one. I'll see you in my next video.